once a summer, each summer since 2016, I think 2016, maybe even 2015, I've done a rundown of a draft, fantasy draft, play by play basically on my blog at Fantasy Football for Winners on the website and the Facebook page. And it's just a chance for people to see how I approach drafting, to scrutinize how I approach drafting. I try to be very transparent about this stuff. I am not perfect. I'm very far from it. I do the best I can, and showing my process might allow people to see what works for them and what they don't like. So for a few minutes today, I want to run through a mock draft I just completed a few minutes ago. It's the only mock draft I have done. My draft, my one league that I do, Premier Fantasy Football League. The draft is Wednesday night, and I'm going to start mock drafting. I decided this is my first one. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it seriously. Wherever ESPN sticks me for this 12-team PPR league, that's where I'm drafting. There's no do-overs. Let's just go for it. So here's the round by round, and here's my thought process. Round one, I picked second, and I remember the first person picked Saquon Barkley, which I didn't like because then it put me in the uncomfortable position of choosing between Bijan Robinson and Jamar Chase. I went with Robinson. I felt like, well, I'd rather feel good about my number one running back than feel good about my number one wide receiver, especially a wide receiver coming off an insanely good season. As good as Jamar Chase is, Bijan Robinson in his position could also get 400 points. I mean, it's entirely doable given how good Robinson is, and how thin that, Atlanta Falcons offense is. In round two, I made, what might be a controversial pick. Keep in mind, it was the 23rd pick overall. So the the best players were gone for obvious reasons. And I was looking at, who's an ascending young talent that I want to get. I don't remember exactly who was available. I just remember looking at some of the guys who were and thinking, eh. So I went down 6, 7, 8 spots, and I found Jackson Smith-Njigba. And that's where I went. In hindsight, maybe that was a mistake, but I think he'll be a perennial top 10 fantasy wideout. So picking him 23rd overall, for me, whether this is a real draft or a mock draft, I feel fine. Coming back up on the third round, this is pick 26. I went away from the strategy that I have thought all summer I would have, which is, well, I'll wait on Dak Prescott, which would have been easier when his ADP earlier this summer was like QB 14, QB 15 in that area. Now it's like QB 10, give or take. And, I still could wait on him. I could wait on CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, or I could wait all the way to the end of Sam Darnold if I really wanted to. I feel pretty good to very good about all those guys. And I just thought at the start of round three, I'm looking ahead at the targets I want in rounds 4, 5, and 6. And I think, well, I could go for a receiver that I like at this spot but don't love, or I could go for a running back that I like or don't love, or I could take at the time Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. They were both available. And I thought, no, who's the player who I can feel the best about? And it was Lamar Jackson. So I went Lamar Jackson, realizing I'm going to lose value at quarterback later on because I'm not going to be able to take a quarterback later on that's going to give me that pop that I want at that position. But there's no other player in round 3 that I'm excited about taking that I couldn't take a round or two later. That leads us to round 4. And this is really the start of the pivotal part of the draft. I felt like the first 3 picks, whatever you think of Jackson Smith-Njigba, it's irrelevant in the sense of, yes, I might have made a mistake with that. It might have been great, but I have my number 1 running back, my number 1 wide receiver, and my number 1 quarterback. And of those 3, I could put up easily, 50 points a week, 60 points a week. The next picks were critically important. I had been eyeing who was available several rounds later. I was looking at 20, 30, 40 picks, trying to figure out, am I really excited about these guys 20, 30, 40 picks away? If so, which guys? So that I can make sure when it gets to me, I'm not panicked over who's left. I know the guys I want, and I know some of them are going to come back to me. So in round 4, I took Breece Hall, probably the most insanely undervalued top 20 fantasy running back in years. In my opinion, his ADP is RB16. It's a drop from about 2 weeks ago when it was RB14. I took him and I was thrilled. Then immediately coming back, I had my choice between I think it was Devonta Smith and somebody else. And Devontae Smith was actually lower down, but I still wanted him because, and I realized he's somebody else. I can't really remember. But Devontae Smith I was happier with him than any other wide receiver who was left, even though Smith was about 10, 12, 14 spots down. I knew I couldn't get him coming back in all likelihood. So I went for him. Then I waited another, however many picks, 20 picks roughly, to get back to me in round 6. And I'm looking at it now and I'm saying, well, I've got 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a quarterback. Do I want to get a tight end at this point? I had my eye on TJ Hawkinson. I think he was taken right before this, which made my decision easier. I went Jalen Waddle. So now I have 2 number 2 wide receivers. Smith playing behind A.J. Brown, but Smith contending, I think, with the 1A role at some point in the next year or two. And Jalen Waddle teaming up with an aging Tyreek Hill. And you never know in that situation when Waddle will just be the alpha some weeks. Then in round 7, immediately coming back, I thought I'd love to get someone at a position other than wide receiver because I already have 3 wide receivers. And then I thought, okay, if I'm going to get a wide receiver, this is the time to seize on it. And I took Travis Hunter. Knowing that would mean I might take 1 more wide receiver the rest of the draft. In this case, it's start 2 wide receivers and start a flex. This would be my 4th wide receiver, which means I would only want 1 more for the rest of the draft, and I was happy with that. I like rolling the dice on Travis Hunter as an early 7th round pick. Then I wait another 20 so picks, comes back to me in the 8th round. Now I kick off the next phase of this strategy, which is I'm giving up on tight end. I've already made that clear to myself. Once Hawkinson went off the board, I thought, well, I could reach for this guy. No, I'm waiting on tight end. I don't need a quarterback. And wide receiver, I'm set. So you know where I'm going with this. I have now simplified this draft for myself because starting in round 8, I can focus exclusively on running backs. Based on ADP, I know that no one's going to take Braylon Allen or Tyler Algier, the 2 handcuffs for my 2 primary running backs, for at least 3 or 4 rounds, just based on ADP. Yeah, someone could leap for, Braylon Allen if they wanted to. I doubt anyone will. So I had a choice here. And this was my choice because I was picking at the 2 spot, which means coming back, I was picking at the 13 spot. So I had one person picking twice in a row between my 2 picks. So strategically, I'm looking at the board saying I could take 2 handcuff running backs who could become starters at some point this season if things break right, or the 1As on their team if things break right, or I could hedge and take 2 running back teammates competing for the starting job. And those 2 teammates were Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. And I really thought, as I look at the board with a 30-second clock, 10 seconds in, I'm thinking, I'm going to go Etienne, and then coming back, I'll take Bigsby. I think that's how I'm going to do it. And then I thought, no, I don't think that's the best upside play for what I want to do. And so I decided to go Mason, and then coming back, I picked Zach Charbonnet. I feel very comfortable with that. I think a good strategy could have also been take the 2 Jags running backs, and I realized that. But I went with what I thought made the most sense, and my thought process with 20 seconds left on the clock was I need to make a decision, and I need it to be strategic. And this was the best way I could do it. Fast forward to round 10, 20 or so picks later. Now I see my 2 handcuffs are still there. If I don't take them now, they're probably not going to be there. So I'm still reaching for them, relatively speaking. This is round 10, the 11th pick. So what is it, 110 picks in, 120 picks in. It's a 12 team. I remember overall ADP, Braylon Allen was like 132 and Tyler Algier was 133. So I knew this was when I had to get them, and I did that. I took Allen in the 10th, and then coming right back, Algier in the 11th. Now I've got 2 starters, both their handcuffs, and 2 very good 1B running backs with the potential to become 1As. I feel very good about my running back situation, and I have 5 picks left in this draft. Coming back to me in the 12th round, this is where things get a little interesting for me because I don't have a set plan. I could take a handcuff. I could take an injured player. I could go tight end at this point if I wanted to. I could reach for a kicker or a defense if I really wanted to. And I thought, no, I'm taking Joe Mixon here. Joe Mixon is still available. His ADP is plummeted. I was eyeing other kind of injured, players at various points. At one point, I thought about taking Jordan Addison earlier, and I thought, I don't think that's the best move. I'd rather wait and take a wide receiver much later and load up on running backs at that stage. So I took Joe Mixon with the understanding that if he gets me, let's say 4 bell cow starts this season, then in the 12th round, I've just gotten an established, proven running back in a plus offense where I'm hoping for at least 4 of those starts. I think that's doable. I don't know that Nick Chubb makes it through the whole season, and the running back core, even though they've got a lot of running backs, is still pretty thin with Dameon Pierce and Woody Marks. So I feel pretty confident that Joe Mixon will sit on IR. I can then pick up somebody else after this mock draft if it were a real draft, and still have Mixon there as either trade bait or as someone I can plug in later. I love that pick. Some people might not like it. I recognize that. I was very happy with that. Coming back to and believe me, when I'm drafting, I'm not usually sitting there going, I'm happy with that pick. I'm usually just like, okay, good. All right, fine. All right. It's like very much that kind of thing. So to get someone like Mixon at this point actually felt really good to feel like I'm rolling the dice on someone with nothing to lose. 13th round, coming immediately right back, I take one of my favorite, completely under the radar wide receivers, Amari Cooper, on this podcast about a week ago, give or take, after the Cooper signing. His ADP, I said, was 87. I said I thought it would go down into the 50s by the time the season started. As of last night, it was 66. I still think it will go down to the 50s, and I'm happy taking Amari Cooper with what amounts to the roughly 150th pick overall. That's a pretty good deal from where I'm sitting. Taking the number 2 wide receiver on a team with that late in a draft, who's established, post-prime, but established, who could be the number 1 over Jacoby Myers if things break right. Coming back to round 14, I need a tight end, a defense, and a kicker. Everything is laid out before me pretty clearly. I know I want a tight end first just because, and I'm looking at Mason Taylor, who's maybe the 4th best tight end according to ADP at this stage, but he's my favorite of the 4 that are remaining. So I take Mason Taylor, who might be the number 2, number 3 guy in targets for the Jets this season. I can tolerate what could be a very slow upswing to his career as a rookie, knowing that later this season he could take on a more formidable role. And I've got enough strength at other positions to be able to withstand that weight. Then at the turn, round 15, coming right back to me, I take Brandon Aubrey. He's a force of nature. My Premier League, I removed kickers last year, though we no longer do kickers. But for those who do, you get the drill with Aubrey. He was maybe 3rd or 4th kicker taken at that point. I was happy to take him. And then finally, my favorite undervalued defense, DST, a defense that I plan to take in my Premier League with the last pick, if no one snipes him from me. It's the Buccaneers. I love the fact that they get the Saints twice. I love the fact that they get the Panthers twice. And in general, they have a very winnable schedule, and they have a very good move the chains offense, which I really like. Because if you want a good defense, in my opinion, you want an offense that is not going to turn over the ball very often and that is not going to have punts at their own 20 that give the ball back to the opponent at their 40 or 45. So in this situation, I think the Buccaneers are pretty smart. Not much to lose, top 10, top 12 defense with the chance to spike if they get a handful of defensive touchdowns. If you have any comments on it, I look forward to hearing it. You can email me anytime. My name again is BJ Rudell, fantasyfootballforwinners.com. Fantasyfootballforwinners@gmail is the email. Sign up for the rankings. If you still have drafts to do, see you tomorrow.